guest is an Emmy-nominated actor you know from his work on shows such as Fleabag, Sherlock, and Black Mirror, and films like Spectre. In 1917, he stars in All of Us Strangers, which is in theaters now. Let's take a look.
It's funny. Things are better now. Of course they are. But it doesn't take much to make you feel the way you felt. Back there again, skin all raw.
Please welcome to the show, Andrew Scott, everybody. Welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
Glad to be here. Thanking you.
I have been a fan for a long time. I think I had a weird thing happen, and I heard that one of the reasons you said yes to Fleabag and playing the hot priest is that you...
Easy.
that you had actually been sort of playing villains and wanted to break free of the villain roles.
Yeah, so when I was in my 20s, I had a little baby, little Irish baby, little puppy, little face. And I really felt like I had this kind of darkness inside me. I was like, why can't I get a part as a villain? And then that happened. And then there was loads of villains happening. So then I was like, why can't people see the real me? So then Phoebe and I had done a play together in London that nobody saw. And then she came a knocking, and that's for the priest.
It does speak to what a great actor you are, because when I was watching Fleabag, I had that moment of like, where do I know him from?
Right.
And even though you look exactly the same in Sherlock as Moriarty, like you went from so villainous to so charming that I thought it can't possibly be the same person.
Well, we contain multitudes.
You do. I don't. You do.
Yeah, you're all dark.
Yeah, all dark. I will say, Phoebe did you, I mean, the finest compliment she could ever do. The fact that she gave you a character named Hot Priest.
Well, she didn't, you know.
Really? Other people did it?
Yeah, the character was called Priest, you know.
Yeah.
And then it was
That's what you brought to it.
It was these filthy people that did it. That's the power of the internet, you know.
Yeah.
No, so she mentions that the character is hot, and then the internet just you know.
I think you brought a lot to that too. Your wonderful co-star in this film, Paul Mescal, he mentioned that he was a fan. He even dressed up as Hot Priest, and that's Daisy Edgar Jones.
Yes,
his incredible.
Yeah, they dressed up for Halloween. They didn't just dress up for no reason.
Very kind of you, forgive them. They're not insane. It was a holiday.
Yeah, exactly.
This is such a this movie. It's hard to talk about. We were
Yes,
saying backstage.
very hard to talk about. Yeah,
it is. It's very sad, but it's more beautiful than sad.
Yes.
Would you say that's a
I think
fair
that's
way
exactly
to talk
right. It's
about
very
it?
hopeful. It's the basic premise of it is that it's this man who conjures up his parents who've been killed in a car accident, and he talks to them as he remembers them most acutely, which is when they are slightly younger than he is. So he has these conversations with his parents, who are played by Claire Foy and Jamie Bell, both of whom are younger than me. And at the same time, he's falling in love with Paul Mescal.
It is really something. It's unlike anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah.
And I expected this beautiful romance, and I got that.
Yeah.
But also as a parent, it was incredibly moving, this idea that not just what your kids would say to you all these years later, but what you would want to be able to say to your kids,
Absolutely.
which as a young parent, you forget that if you're not around, you never have this moment to say, hey, I was young too.
Yeah, well, that's what's so beautiful. It's just this beautiful idea. And, you know, we're children forever with our parents. And, you know, everybody has a relationship with their parents, even if they're not around. So it's this really, really beautiful and very, very hopeful kind of film. And, yeah, I think that's what the film is just taking off now. So it's so beautiful to hear everybody's reaction to it.
There's a really wonderful scene where you're sort of visiting with your parents, and you're wearing, as an adult, you're wearing child's pajamas. Now, they're sized for you.
Yes.
And it's one of the most heartbreaking scenes in the film. But I also couldn't help but think when they said cut, you were just basically in mortifying pajamas.
You know those polyester pajamas that you have when you're a child, and you have such a... I just looked ridiculous. Talk about unhot. There was no hot priest there, but yeah, it seems absurd, but it's very moving.
It's very moving. I will say I've also seen a lot of press with you and Paul You seem like very good friends.
Yes.
You seem to have a lot of laughs with each other.
Yeah, you gotta
And yet
have a
this
laugh.
film is sort of almost, you know, it's so serious.
Yeah.
Was it easy for you to go both in and out of scenes and also just sort of have a lightness that is obviously there in your friendship?
Oh, totally. Like when you're doing when you're doing anything sad, you always have the most fun. Like
Yeah.
you really do, because you can't spend your whole day crying into the darkness. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You really can't. And yeah, I remember when I played Hamlet, we had such a laugh backstage. And then you're going on and you're like talking about, you know, really, you know, you're literally talking about life and death. But yeah, you gotta have a bit of light and shade, otherwise you.
It's true. And by the way, on sets of comedies, like that's where
Right.
the minute anybody says cut, everybody's like, was that funny? Was that
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, people on headphones going, "That's funny." Yeah, that's funny. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's true. It's really true. But
You
such is
talked
life.
about the response, and I know you've been out doing a lot of press. I mean, making a movie like this that is so unlike anything else, has it been wonderful the way it's being received? I have to imagine
It's been phenomenal. It's genuine. It's a film that's really, really difficult to talk to, but to see the film, I believe, is to love the film. I really do. I think it affects people in this extraordinary way. People are like leaving the cinema, and it's not depressing, as you say, but
Yeah.
it's I'm determined that people don't think it's a really depressing film. But it's sort of cathartic and moving. It's very emotional. It's about families, and people just love that. People like a good cry in the cinema, and
I agree.
You know, and there's a bit of romance in there, and it's really, really beautiful. So please just go and see it.
I will say this. Do you find you're more emotional when you see a movie on a plane?
Oh my God! I had to be. I remember the air steward had to say, "Are you all right, sir?" Because I was watching. You know the first 20 minutes of Up.
Oh,
Have you
yeah,
seen
yeah.
Up? Oh my God!
Yeah,
that
I know.
film is like.
They shouldn't allow that on a plane.
Yeah, it's not. Oh my God! I was fully like kind of crying.
Because
Yeah.
I will say there's often times where, you know, I have a lot of guests on the show. Sometimes I have to like catch the films where I can't. I can't always go see them in
Of
the cinema.
course,
I don't
right.
watch them the best way. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm watching them on a laptop in
of
an
course.
office.
Yeah.
And this movie was still getting me so much. And I had a moment of like, oh my God, if people watch this on a plane, there
you're
should be an
quite right.
announcement saying, you have to let the people in your row know you're about to do this.
Exactly.
So they don't come to us and be like,
Yes,
somebody's
exactly.
having a mental breakdown.
Yeah. We're about to serve lunch, and all of us strangers is about to start. Please assemble your tissues. Yeah. It's a very astute point, actually. If it makes it to the planes, how do they choose?
I don't know.
What goes on?
Do you want to ask now?
That's not for now.
No, let's. But you know, if you have any favorite airlines that you want to, you know, basically ask right now to have
I
it.
do, but sure, I couldn't cheapen myself in that way.
Very good. That was a trap.
Right, look
We
at
laid
that.
out a
That was
trap
a
for
trap. Thank you.
Yeah. Another thing about a film like this, you know, it's a very small cast, and
Yeah.
that must be a wonderful part because. You know, you mentioned doing a play, you know, with Phoebe or working with Paul on stage.
Yeah.
It must at some point feel a little bit like not a play, but a play's cast, like a small group of people that get
Yeah,
to
well, there's
really-
only the four of you. So you get
Yeah.
sick looking at each other, but the subject matter is so epic. You know, you'll see it when you guys go and see the movie. You know, it's such a huge subject matter. So it's kind of nice the juxtaposition between this tiny little thing, these stories that we think within our own families are just so precious to us, but actually, you know, they're huge. You know, our own life story is the most important thing in our world. So yeah, it was really, really intimate. And we shot it in the childhood home. It's about this man who goes back to his childhood home. And we shot it in the actual childhood home of our director, Andrew Hay.
No way.
So we went into this little suburban house, and he was of course, he wrote the film, and he was imagining his own house, as you might do. And then he knocked on the door of his childhood house, and he was like, "Hello, I used to live here." And mercifully, they hadn't put a big disgusting extension onto it.
Yeah.
And so we were able to use it as a 1980s home. So it was
Really?
extraordinary. I kept looking at him going, is this not freaking you out that you would have like been crying in this little bathroom and all our crew stomping all over it? But actually it provided a real intimacy to the atmosphere, you know, because you feel like you were really, even though it's not a true story, you feel like you're representing somebody.
Well, it was really something special. I'm so glad I saw it. Everybody should see it. Thanks for being here, man.
Thank
What
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Andrew Scott, everyone. All of Us Strangers is in theaters everywhere